On point 773. As you can probably tell by the 773 in the channel name, and if you know me, which you probably do if you're watching this, I'm from Chicago. I care deeply about the city, and I care deeply about who is going to run the city. And so tomorrow is the mayoral election, and I think it would be a good idea to do a tier list to talk about the 9 candidates who are running, rank them, and see who I think would be best, who I think would be worst for the city, and why I like the candidates that I like. So getting right into it, I'll just go down the line here, starting with Chuy. So Chuy Garcia, he is in the, He's in the House of Representatives for Illinois, and he has been for a few years now. He started off his political career much more grassroots. He talks about how he first decided to get into politics because he saw one of his best friends get killed while they were trying to improve the community through community organizing and that kind of activism, low-level grassroots work. And so once that happened, he sort of decided to make his political career more official and start running for offices and things like that. And so he's been in the game for a long time. He ran against Lori the first time, and he put up a good fight. Unfortunately, he didn't win. Chuy, he seems like a good guy. He seems like a guy who really does care about the city. He cares about the people in Chicago and making their lives better. He's clearly dedicated his work and his life to this, so there's not much that makes me feel like he's not genuine, even though he does seem to be somewhat of a career politician, just based off the fact of how long he's been doing it. Not much else to say about Chuy. I like him. He's pretty interesting, especially funding-wise. Sam Bankman-Fried from FTX, I think he paid for about $130,000 worth of flyers and direct mail advertising to be sent out on Chuy's behalf. I don't know if that was an anonymous donation. Chuy says that he's never talked to Sam and that he's never had any interaction with him. So any of the money that he has donated to Chuy's campaigns or causes was, on his own and not at Chuy's request. But I mean, getting money from a dude who stole billions from the people is not really a good look, but he did return $3,000 of a cash donation that he received from Sam. So that's good. He's saying, I don't need the corporate money, but the corporate money did help him in the end, and I am a big proponent of getting corporate money out of politics on both sides, whether it's progressive, conservative, Republican, Democrat. I don't think corporations and big money players should be able to wield that as they wish for political influence. So all that said, I mean, Chuy, he's endorsed by Pat Quinn, our former governor. If you feel a way about him, maybe that'll make you feel a way about Chuy. But I would feel comfortable putting Chuy as a B tier candidate. I think I would be happy if he is elected. So Chuy, B tier candidate. I'm happy with that ranking for Chuy. I would be happy if he wins. I wouldn't feel like it would be the worst thing for the city, although I don't think it would be the best thing. I think he would, try to do as much good as he could in Chicago and maybe sort of limit some of these private contracts that we've been giving out and do things that are more beneficial to the city and not just things that sort of grab money from the citizens. So next we have Cam Buckner. He is an Illinois state rep. He's been one since 2019. A lot of the things he talks about debates-wise in the forums, if you listen to him speak, he talks about making Chicago better, as all the freaking candidates will, but he doesn't really say anything that's too inspiring to make me feel like he's got unique ideas, unique plans to help bring the city into the future and improve life for Chicagoans. And he somewhat kind of gives me the feeling of like this is just a stepping stone for him. Whether his next step is going to be governor or senator, I get somewhat of the feeling that Cam is sort of in this for like a political advancement and not as much because he just wants to see Chicago be the greatest city that it can be. After watching him in 3 debates and forums, he just never really inspired me, but he is someone who I feel like is a mid-tier candidate. I wouldn't be upset if they won, but I wouldn't be happy about it either. It would just feel like it's going to be more of the same with Cam Buckner. So I'm going to put Cam at a C-tier candidate. I just feel very blasé towards him. No strong feelings. I don't feel like he would do bad for the city, but I don't feel like he would do much great for the city either. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for someone who's going to do great, not someone who's going to do good. Next up, we got Willie Wilson. Everybody probably at least has some name recognition with Willie Wilson. He did the gas giveaways. He did the grocery giveaways when gas was super expensive and when groceries are still high. So that was definitely good to see Willie giving directly to the people. Although that's not specifically unique, a lot of these candidates are involved in organizations that, help out communities and do things like food drives and coat drives and back to school drives. So that's not necessarily stand out. It's just interesting because Willie is primarily self-funded. So that was his money that he was giving directly to the people, which is admirable. But he says some things that just, in my eyes, completely negate all good he does. One of his mantras of his campaign has been, we need to take the handcuffs off of police and put them back onto the criminals. And when he says that, I just completely lose all faith in him as a candidate. I do not want a mayor who is going to loosen up laws for police and make them feel like they are more at will to do whatever they feel when they're out on the force. I want police to have very strict rules, very strict guidance about what they're able to do to protect communities when engaging with citizens, whether they're engaging with offenders. Cops are not judges. In this country, you're innocent until proven guilty. They should do what they need to do to stay safe and stay alive while they do their job. But at the same time, I don't want to move into a stop and frisk era of Chicago. Over-policing just leads to more incidences of police brutality and police harassment, and that is not the city I want to live in. Willie says things like, we need to hunt the criminals down like rabbits since they want to act like animals, and that is just not okay because we know that people who commit crimes, most of the time, it's because they need to. Most people are not committing crimes simply because they want to. And if they had another option to give them some self-worth, be a productive member of society, and contribute in a way that they found interesting, that would do a lot more to reduce violence, reduce carjackings, and improve impoverished neighborhoods as a whole. The look, the economic state, the commercial state regarding the amount of businesses, everything. So we need someone who's going to invest into these people and into the schools in these cities, in these neighborhoods, and not just want to arrest everybody and put a cop on every corner. Willie says that we need to have armed guards on the CTA, on all buses. To me, that feels like a police state. I am not interested in feeling like my city is occupied by CPD, and generally cops don't make me feel more comfortable, even as a law-abiding citizen. So Willie, for all those reasons, you're an F-tier candidate. I would not vote for you. I do not want you to win. If you do win, I will be unhappy about it. But you run for everything every year and you never win anything. So I have zero faith that you will end up winning this as well. You have a lot of signs out, but I don't think anybody actually going to vote for you enough to win. If they do, I will be completely surprised. And so next up we have Paul Vallas. He is the former CEO of CPS, which, I mean, a lot of people here, a lot of people probably watching this went to CPS schools, especially in the time that we were going, in the time that he was CEO in the 2000s. CPS just wasn't great. A lot of schools were underfunded. A lot of schools were closed under Rahm while Vallas was CEO. And he just doesn't really inspire me. One of his biggest endorsements is from the current vice mayor of the city. And if you're not happy with the city's current leadership, I mean, Lori's second in charge endorses Vallas. So to me, that would pretty much eliminate him for me as well. And then the icing on the cake is that the police union, the Fraternal Order of Police, whatever it's called, they also endorse Vallas. And I am not looking to elect a candidate who is going to be pro-police. I'm not looking to elect a candidate who may feel that they are indebted to the police or the police union because they got elected. And then just frankly, I'm not interested in voting for old white dudes anymore. They've had their time. They've had their time to lead. And unless you're someone like Bernie, who I feel like is really, really trying to present new ideas and make the lives of the majority better, or if you're someone like in the last election with Joe Biden, where it's pretty much just like, you know, I'm really not interested in voting in for an old white man. So in a field that's this diverse, it's not really that diverse, but in a field of this ethnic makeup, I'm not looking to vote for Vallas. So we're going to put him at a D tier candidate. He doesn't say things as extreme as Willie in terms of like hunting criminals down, but he just seems to be very pro-police, and I'm not gonna, that's big for me. I'm not with that. So Vallas, you're D tier. Next up, we got Lori, Miss Lori Lightfoot. It's quick. I'm not voting for Lori. I didn't vote for her the first time. She's just generally off-putting. She's bad at business for the city. Tyson left because of her. Boeing left because of her. McDonald's corporate may leave because of her. The freaking Chicago Bears are about to move to Arlington Heights because of her. She is just not doing good for the city. And ever since she raised the bridges, I have not been a fan, and there was never a chance I was going to be a fan. I felt like that was an egregious move. A ridiculous display of power that pretty much trapped people downtown and didn't allow them a way home. So, Lori, you are also going in, is she D tier? Is she F tier? Let's put Lori in F tier. I mean, anyone below C tier, I do not want to be elected, and I will be unhappy if they are. So, you know, Vallas may be slightly better, but that's probably just because he hasn't been in office and hasn't done things to leave a sour taste in my mouth. But Lori, she's proven to me time and time again that she is someone who I do not trust to have my best interest or the best interest of most Chicagoans at heart. So Lori is going in F tier. And next up, we have Jamal Green. He is a young community activist from the South Side. He's also an entrepreneur. He owns multiple small businesses. But before that, he was a community activist. He worked on Bernie's campaign in 2016, I believe it was giving speeches on Bernie's behalf, campaigning for him all around the country. That's very admirable because I want a progressive candidate. I want a reasonably progressive candidate. Like I've been saying, I want someone who I feel like is going to move Chicago into the future. And I really feel like Jamal is trying to do that. He talks a lot about investing into communities and trying to provide more opportunities, trying to provide earlier health care or child care, for kids aged 3 so that their parents can get back to work. He knows how difficult it is to open a small business, run a small business, and keep one going. So he talks about loosening up the restrictions so that people can have more access to small business loans and small business grants, reducing some of the bureaucracy so that it's easier to start a small business with the help of the city. And as we know, Chicago is a very bureaucratic, kind of good old boys, chummy city. And I think Jamal is going to heavily disrupt that. I may even go as far to say Chicago has a corrupt history in politics. And I think Jamal is going to be ushering in a new guard, especially for a young progressive candidate. I really, really like him. He has some other good ideas. He talks about banning the boot, which I love. I think that's just a negative instrument used by the city. You pretty much eliminate someone's capacity to earn, maybe even provide for themselves, get their kids to and from school. Putting a boot on someone's car pretty much does nothing positive. If someone couldn't afford to pay their tickets, why would they be able to afford to have their boot removed? So I love that idea. And stopping the doubling and tripling of tickets, I think that is a lovely idea as well. I mean, Chicago traffic tickets are crazy. Our freaking red light camera system is insane. They use the excuse of shootings to put all these cameras and speed traps everywhere, but really it's a money grab, and you're just trying to find more ways to fine your citizens so that you can generate more revenue. And I think it would be a lot better if we tried to generate revenue through businesses and other endeavors and not just taking money out the pockets of the citizens because they're going 36 and a 30, or they didn't want to get rear-ended, so they ran a red light for half a millisecond and now they got to pay $100. I mean, it's just not what I'm with. And I love that Jamal is trying to attack some of the issues with policies from before him. And I think, having a young brother in office is a great thing to have. And why not hear new ideas, have new voices at the top, at the helm? Because for so long, it's been the same types of people, or the same types of people endorsing and pretty much paying for other people who they approve of to get in. And Jamal doesn't have any of these really corporate endorsements or big money donors like SBF. So for that reason, I'm putting Jamal in S tier. I think he would be a superb mayor. I would love to see what he does with his time in office and how he is able to make the city better. At least give him a chance. And if he doesn't do it, in 4 years, we can put someone else in there. But why not hear what he has to say, and let's see what he can do. Next, we've got Brandon Johnson. So he's also marketing himself as the other progressive option in the race right now. And I do like Brandon Johnson. He talks about not raising property taxes, which recently a lot of people have been complaining about how much their property taxes spiked. The price of housing, the real estate market in general, is insane, but the price of housing has just gone through the roof recently, and so property taxes are going to reflect that increase in price. And so him saying to not raise property taxes for his 4 years in office, I like that idea. I somewhat feel like he is sort of, on the career politician spectrum, because he has a lot of like funding. I see him everywhere. I see a lot of signs. I see a ton of commercials with Brandon Johnson. And so I have to wonder where he's getting all the money and funding to pay for this stuff. And when people pretty much pay for you to be elected, we oftentimes know that on the back end, you're going to be doing favors for them while you're in office, promoting preferable policies and things like that. So that does worry me a bit about Brandon Johnson, but he's endorsed by the teachers union as well. I don't think the teachers union would endorse someone who they believe isn't going to be good for the city. I mean, they're teachers. They should be caring about kids. They should be caring about the youth. And so if the teachers union does feel that Brandon Johnson would be a potentially good candidate, I'm gonna lend credence to that. It's not gonna be the ultimate deciding factor for me, but it is, if we can't trust teachers, really, who can we trust? So Brandon Johnson, I'm gonna put him as a B tier candidate as well. I like Brandon just as much as I like Chewy. If either one of them were elected, I would feel the same. I like them both, Chewy and Brandon, more than Cam Buckner. So I'm going to put Brandon at B tier. I think he's a fair B for Brandon tiered candidate. Next, we have Sophia King, and she is the alderman of the 4th Ward. So that's pretty much like the east, very, very east, like East Bronzeville, very East Hyde Park, all the way up to like Millennium Park. So like Soldier Field is in her ward and stuff like that. So I just think she's a rather uninspiring candidate. When I hear her talk, it's just like very polished political statements that I know they've spent hours going over the questions, how to answer them, whether the question comes in different forms, and how to appear likable. And she does come off as likable, but she also just comes off as like another politician. She's not inspiring. I don't really ever hear her put forth any new, unique ideas. And I just don't really feel much about her when I hear her speak and when I watch her on the debates. So I would put Sophia King. Other thing about her, she says one of the most requested things she gets from the people living in her ward is for increased police presence. And me personally, that's not something I'm looking for. Like I said before, I don't want to live in a police state. And if she does believe that an increased police presence is going to be one of the best things to improve public safety in the city and not attack the root issues of what causes crime, I think we're just like putting a Band-Aid on a stab wound, and that's not what I'm looking for my mayor to do. So I am going to put Sophia King next to Cam Buckner as a C tier candidate. Although I do hear that her husband is a DJ for like one of the big house picnics, maybe the Chosen Few. So that's cool. She's down with the city, but she's just not inspiring as a mayoral candidate. So she's going to sit nicely in C tier. And last but not least, we have Roderick Sawyer. So he is the son of Eugene Sawyer, who is the mayor who took over after Harold Washington passed. So his family is clearly deeply entrenched in Chicago politics. And I do see a ton of signage for him all over the place. So that definitely tells me that he's got some funding. He's got some people who really want to see him as mayor. and it doesn't really feel too grassroots the way that Jamal's campaign or even Chewy's does to an extent. It feels much Jamal and Chewy's campaigns and their supporters feel much more like they are a part of communities. In Roderick Sawyer, I don't really see where his like fan base is coming from. And again, in debates, in the forums, he never says anything that I'm like, oh, that's actually a good, unique idea. That's something that I think is gonna push Chicago forward, continue to make us a world-class city. He just is like rather uninspiring. He seems like a polished politician. His dad used to be mayor. He's an alderman now of like the Auburn Gresham area. So I'm glad, he's already doing something for a city or for an area in the city that could use some help. But when I hear him talk about being mayor, I don't hear him saying anything that makes me want to put him in that position of leadership. So Roderick Sawyer, you're going to fit nicely next to Sophia King and Cam Buckner as a C-tiered candidate. You're not great, but you're not bad. If you were to get elected, which I highly doubt you will, I would just feel like it's going to be more of the same. And so that about wraps it up. Clearly, at the top, we have Jamal Green. He's who I plan to vote for. And if you want a community-based, truly progressive candidate who I feel like is really, really going to fight for the city and fight for young people and to make the lives of everyone in Chicago better. Rising tides lift all boats, and when you bring up the people who are doing the worst, it makes it easier for everybody else to do better as well. That's why I like Jamal. I was able to meet him at a Laquan McDonald protest, and seeing him in action, boots on the ground, definitely made an impact on me. That could lead me to be biased, but also seeing him at the front of the protest, leading, gathering, organizing, and caring about the people and the issues was impactful. And so that is also part of the reason why Jamal is going to get my vote. So hopefully you guys can make it to the polls today or tomorrow, because early voting is available. You can look online for a polling place near you, and happy voting. And I'll be back with another episode of On Point.